The Great Flood of 1931, the disaster that drowned millions. The summer of 1931 in China began like any other, humid, heavy skies hanging over the fertile plains of the Yangtze and Yellow Rivers. Farmers tilled the earth, hoping for a generous harvest. Children splashed in the shallow waters, unaware that those same waters would soon rise into monsters that would swallow entire villages whole. But nature had already begun to stir. Unseen high in the Tibetan plateau, snowmelt rushed down swollen rivers. And in the skies above central China, dark clouds gathered, releasing weeks upon weeks of torrential rain. It wasn't just a storm. It was as if the heavens themselves had opened, punishing the land with relentless downpours. By late spring, rivers surged far beyond their banks. The mighty Yangtze, often called the lifeblood of China, grew wild and untamable. The Yellow River, long known as China's sorrow, for its history of floods, became a raging serpent, breaking levees and carving new paths across the countryside. Entire provinces were consumed. Henan, Anhui, Jiangsu, and Hubei vanished beneath a sheet of water. Picture this: towns that once bustled with markets and temples became ghostly lagoons. Pagoda rooftops jutted out like lonely islands. Boats drifted over what had been streets, floating past homes now buried beneath the flood. For the people, there was no escape. Families scrambled to higher ground, clinging to treetops or crowding onto makeshift rafts. Some sought refuge on the few dry embankments left, but those became graveyards of hunger and disease. Crops drowned, livestock swept away, and clean drinking water became a rarity. What little food remained was fought over. Hunger set in. Diseases followed. Typhoid, cholera, and dysentery spread faster than the waters themselves. People drank from the very floods that poisoned them. Corpses floated in the rivers alongside survivors who clung desperately to life. In some regions, famine grew so severe that whispers of cannibalism haunted the refugee camps. The numbers are staggering. Historians estimate that between 1 and 4 million people lost their lives in this single catastrophe. Millions more were left homeless, their livelihoods destroyed, their families torn apart. It wasn't just a flood, it was an apocalypse. Yet amid the despair, stories of human resilience emerged. Local communities tried to save one another, sharing scraps of food, building rafts from broken doors, lifting children above the rising waters even as adults were swept away. Some records tell of entire villages forming human chains to rescue the stranded. But beyond survival, the flood changed China forever. The scale of the disaster revealed the fragility of the nation's infrastructure and the need for modern flood control. The memory of 1931 lingered for generations, fueling political change, engineering feats, and national movements to tame the rivers that had claimed so many lives. Imagine standing on the banks of the Yangtze today, watching the steady waters flow, and realizing that less than a century ago, those same waters rose with such fury that millions perished. It's a haunting reminder of the power of nature, how rivers that give life can also take it away in an instant. The 1931 China floods remain the deadliest flood in human history. More than just a natural disaster, it was a turning point, a tragedy written in water, hunger, and sorrow, etched permanently into the memory of mankind. And perhaps its greatest lesson is this: no matter how much humanity builds, controls, or resists, the forces of nature will always remind us who truly holds the power. Mike, closing narration idea? Some disasters fade with time, but the Great Flood of 1931 still whispers through the rivers of China, a warning, a memory, and a story that must never be forgotten. Subscribe to this channel for more videos like this.